So today on the show, I've got Perry Liao, a good friend of mine that I used to improv with back in San Diego. He's a really good man, one of my favorite people in the world. He helped me through the end of my marriage last year and really helped me kind of work through some things. He was a really good sounding board. He did not hold back. He was really good at letting me know what was really going on, asking me questions, and is really, really good at getting to the essence of things, takes good care of himself, and helps men to do the same. So his focus is on Asian men, and he has a website called purposedrivenmastery.com, does articles and videos and all of that good stuff. So we talk a little bit about that and what he does and how you as a man can value yourself a little bit more. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Perry Liao. Hello, Perry.
Hey, Christian, how's it going?
Good to hear from you, buddy.
Likewise, man. It's been a while.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, Perry Liao is a good friend of mine. We were doing improv together in San Diego. Just so the audience gets to know who you are, why don't you give us a little bit of a heads up as to who you are, what you're up to, and I know you've got a book, so you can talk about that a little bit too.
Sure. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Perry Liao. I empower Asian men to live purposely so they could have more fulfillment, courage, and equanimity in their lives. Mm-hmm. I run a website. I write weekly articles. I create weekly videos, and it's just my way of giving value to my audience. And there's tips and hacks that they could apply in their life right now to become a better version of themselves.
Mm-hmm. When you say empower, how would you define that?
I think a lot of men in today's society, they're living under their potential. And my job is to really help them unlock their power, because there's a lot of hidden energy inside of them that they're not really utilizing. Right.
And do you work with men one-on-one, or is it just through your articles and videos and your book?
I do both. Okay. For the articles, it's just for me to capture people at once, but I also do one-on-one coaching, and I actually like that the most because I get to see the progress over time, and I get to know them, and it's building that relationship over time.
Yeah. So what's that process like? Are you just kind of sitting down with them, asking questions, or should I say, is there any particular questions that come to mind when you're first sitting down with someone to find out about who they are?
Absolutely. I actually have them fill out an application before I even get on the phone with them to see if they're a good fit. But if they are a good fit, then I just start coaching them right then and there. And every person's different, but I always ask them where they are right now and where they want to go. And my job is to help them bridge that gap. Most of my job is to ask them engaging questions, because I don't know the answer. They have to figure it out for themselves. But I'm here to provide them a guideline so they could think for themselves.
Right. And so typically it sounds like you're working with men who want to change in some way and they just kind of don't know where to go, right?
Yeah. And sometimes they do know, but then they just need that extra approval or acceptance to give them that extra push to go forward.
Yeah. And what would you say is like typically the answer that they give when you ask like where do they want to go? Where do most men that you come across, where do they want to be in their lives? Is it about success, relationships, personal self-fulfillment, or all of the above?
Yeah, right. Like I said, everyone's different, and yes, some people, they want to get in better physical shape, so that's with health or their relationships. Some of them, they don't have relationships and they want to get a girlfriend or improve their professional life, whatever they may be. They all have their unique struggles. And I think becoming a better person, becoming a better man, and deserving those things that you want, right? It's not just about getting those outcomes, but it's growing as a person. That's the ultimate goal I'm trying to help these men.
Right. And feel like they deserve it. That's the big word there that I think a lot of people, including myself, I've had issues with this in my past, where it's kind of hard to feel like you deserve money, or you deserve love, or you deserve some sort of accolades for who you are. But because, sometimes men, we can have some terrible thoughts, or we don't feel good about ourselves, or we feel insecure, and feeling like we deserve something, or that we deserve to be loved, or that we deserve better, is kind of a hard hurdle for us to overcome, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. And it starts with ourselves. I do help a lot of men do internal work where they practice self-compassion, self-love, self-respect. And most times the way that we treat ourselves is how we train other people to treat ourselves. And by living example, you're implementing the standards that you want to be treated.
Yeah, absolutely. So we had some times, and I know you're good at this, which is why I wanted you to be on the show, because we've had some talks in the past, and you're really great at listening and really good at identifying someone's strengths and what's really going on. And at the time, I think I remember that you were just talking about men in general, but you just mentioned you wanted to empower Asian men specifically. Obviously, you're an Asian man based on the last name. Is it because of your background that you wanted to focus on Asian men, or did you see something, a common ground in Asian men that that lured you into focusing on them?
Right. Right now, I'm focusing on Asian men. Like you said, I'm Asian, and I see a lot of unique challenges that other men in different ethnicity don't face. But my ultimate vision is to empower every man.
Right.
But from a business perspective, I want to narrow down on my niche so I could always focus on that and then expand later on. But a common challenge I see in Asian men in particular is we get a lot of influence from our parents. Right. From a young age, we are told exactly what to do. And our only way to success is through formal education, and which is great. But nowadays, a lot of people, they don't have college degrees, yet they're very successful. And I know they're more the exception than the norm. But a lot of my friends included, I see they're just living a scripted life. They're not really doing things that they truly want to do. And a big part of that is because they don't want to feel rejected or disowned even by their parents.
Right.
And that's a big challenge for a lot of men. It's they can't do what they truly want to do because of fear from their parents and even society.
Is that something that they come to you specifically saying that they have this hard time of subverting their parents' expectations, or is that something that you kind of end up unlocking in a lot of people?
Right. They're it's hard for men to get vulnerable, to be really honest with other people. So most of them, they don't aware that they're living in fear because of their parents or society. And I help them unlock that by sharing my own story, that I had to actually envision my parents were dead before I even started doing what I'm doing now, because I was working as a comfortable chemical engineer with a good salary. I was driving a nice car, living in a comfortable place. Everything on the surface looked great, but deep down, I was unfulfilled. I wanted to do something more, and I had to go through these mental exercises to put myself in that powerful state to go to my boss's office and tell him that I'm leaving. And seeing my parents laying lifeless in their caskets, it made me sad, but it also gave me a spark of joy, that freedom of being able to do whatever I want. So through sharing my story, they could relate to that, and they identify themselves that they're living in fear, and they know the cause for not unleashing their fullest potential.
I think that's an interesting tactic. I think a lot of people would find that extreme, but I see that as like it's kind of a stoicism sort of approach, almost, of imagining what your life would be like with unlimited potential, with no rules, with somebody not holding you back, or having to envision the worst of life in order to see what you would do with that. Particularly with your parents, imagining that your parents are not there, what would you do without that restriction? Like, often it's like you're saying, like, it sounds like a lot of people have this much grander vision inside of their heads than what they have, what they're exhibiting in life. And do you find that a lot of men similar to your situation are already achieving external success, or is it like a mix of people who aren't doing well at all and want to change it up?
It's a combination of both. Some people, they have all the external success that they're supposed to have, that high-paying job. I mean, a lot of my friends are doctors. They're in the medical field. So they're wealthy, but they're not happy because they work lots of hours and they don't have a lot of time to do what they truly want to do, whatever that may be. And on the surface, they look great, but deep down, they're unsatisfied. They're discontent. So a lot of internal work that needs to be done is all about prioritizing. And I asked them, what's really important to you? How do you prioritize life? Is it your health? Is it your relationship with your significant other? If that's what you value, then maybe it's better to have a job that demands less time from you, so that you could actually spend more time with your significant other. So it's really getting down and being honest with themselves and prioritize what's important to them.
Is it common in Asian culture to have your parents really close to you and geographically and in like your everyday life? Are they quote unquote nosy, for lack of a better word?
Yeah, that's very common in the Asian culture. Well, I'm a Chinese descent. In China, the son actually still lives with the parents even after they get married. And that's just the norm. Whereas in the Western culture, parents, they kick you out once you turn 18 and they don't want anything to do with you. So later on, right? But for some people, they don't understand that. But in the Asian culture, it's very common for parents to be very close to their kids, and they want to be involved with everything that you do.
Right. So I want to circle back to some of the vulnerability stuff a little bit, because that is a huge commonality that I've seen, not just in men in particular, but with any kind of mental health issues or struggle in life. It seems like a commonality that I'm seeing is a repression, somebody holding themselves back from expressing how they feel or what they want to feel. I feel like this is particularly difficult for men because let's just take American culture, for example. Men are often in pop culture exhibited as like, you need to have a huge sense of bravado. You can't express your emotions. You can't cry, can't be a big baby. And, it's typically expected of women to be more emotional, sometimes to a fault. So when you start talking with men, how do you address that vulnerability? How do you get that out of them? I'm just going to leave it open like that. How do you address their vulnerability?
That's a great question. And I deal with it too. And it's a constant struggle. But for me to help them to be open and be vulnerable is to lead by vulnerability. So sharing my story, getting emotional, and just be authentic, saying what's really on my mind and how I generally feel. And oftentimes they respect that, say, oh, he's being open, he's being brutally honest. So that makes it okay for me to do the same. But in culture, men were taught at a young age to not cry, even when we bleed or whatever may be happening, that we have to be a rock. We can't show any weakness. But vulnerability is actually a sign of strength. You're basically saying that this is who I am. I'm okay with who I am. I'm not scared of attacks or criticism. And vulnerability is the key to connecting with other people, because it shows who you are, makes you relatable, and most importantly, makes you human. And we're all human at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I find that when a lot of men open up, like it could be beautiful when they start to like let themselves, just gush out the emotions that they've been holding back for so long, from such a deep level, childhood things, what's going on with their life, and they can really take charge and start to make some beautiful strides towards their future. It's a really good thing that you're doing for them.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, in that sense, do you to kind of flip it a little bit, have you had any clients who have been averse to working with you or had difficulties opening up? And what was that situation like, if so?
Well, like I said before, I actually interview them before I see if it's a good fit for me. So if most clients that don't excite me, then I don't work with them because I don't think it's a good fit and it's not mutual beneficial. But I work with friends, or I try to work with friends before, and I can only help someone who want to be helped. I can't force anything down their throats if they don't want the information. And the best way that I found most effective is to lead by example, live the message that I preach. And when they want to see that change, then they will come up and talk to me. And that's where we could have that conversation about being vulnerable and being masculine at the same time. I know that's a negative connotation in society nowadays, but being masculine is truly about showing the vulnerability and also being that rock when you have to be.
Being a grown-ass man when you need to be.
Exactly, yeah, right.
So I had a question. Oh, okay. So, one of the things that you spoke about was sometimes men want to physically get better along with, mentally and spiritually want to improve as well. Do you help them with like diet or exercise or physical changes or anything like that? Or do you work with a trainer to guide them or anything like that?
Absolutely. So the 4 pillars that I have divided life into is, first is health. And then the second is wealth. The third one is relationships. And the fourth one is personal growth. To answer your question, yes, I definitely help people with their diet, with their workout regimens. And I tell them what to do. Just give them a guideline to follow. But I don't work with them one-on-one at the gym. I just give them a workout plan, and I check in with them on a weekly basis to see where they are at. And basically keep them accountable. Right. And same with spirituality. I give them a meditation practice and also information about what the benefits of meditations are if they're not aware of those. Basically give them the foundations and starting with the why, the purpose behind it, and then going to the practicality of it.
Is there ever a time, should I say, how long do you typically work with somebody? Is there a length of time where it's like, all right, they're done, send them off into the world? or do you have clients who are just like having you around weekly or whatever the situation may be, for indefinitely, or is it just like a 6-week thing, an 8-week thing? Like what's the timetable like for your work with people usually?
That's a good question. I have a few options. Usually we start off at 3 months and I work with them on a weekly basis. But the ultimate goal is to have them self-sufficient where they could, like you say, go off in the woods by themselves.
Right.
But it really depends on the person and where they want to go, because I think as a person, we should always be growing and we should have someone by our side to help us get to the next level. And 3 months, 6 months, and usually a year is what I offer, but they could terminate anytime they want if they feel like they don't need me anymore and they're completely self-sufficient.
Right. Is there a pattern for the types of jobs that these people end up having in terms of like, do they have high stress jobs that are kind of high stress jobs or high stress relationships that are kind of coercing them to reach out to someone like you?
Yeah, they're usually in some sort of crisis. It may be with their job, would be the lack of love life or detriments of their health. Usually it's some sort of problem that has caused them so much pain that they no longer endure the suffering, that they want to make a change. And that's the key that I want to emphasize is usually we're okay with something if we could tolerate it. But if the pain of enduring is so great that it exceeds the pain of change, then that's where we want to make a change in our lifestyle.
And I think a lot of this have an instinctual idea of where that is. Yeah, I think many of us have a higher threshold for that, which is why we push through things more than we need to. but I guess everyone has a breaking point, and it's good that you're there to help them pick up the pieces. So I want to kind of switch over to kind of go through your pillars here. I kind of want to switch over to relationships a bit, especially for someone who is, a young single guy who doesn't know what to do with himself, where to go in life. How do you give someone a relationship, an advice on where to find the kind of relationship that suits them?
Another great question. I would first ask the person what they want in a relationship, meaning whether it's romantic or platonic relationship. And it starts with your core values. What's important to you? For example, for myself, I value health, I value continuous growth, and I value contribution, giving back to the world. So if those two things are important to me, I tend to find someone who similar in that aspect, who likes to exercise, eat healthy, meditate, or someone who's spiritually awakened, and someone who values growth in all aspects of life. I think the concept of opposites attract, it's not something that's sustainable. It might cause initial attraction, but in the long run, if your core values are different, your relationship will not work in the long run.
Right. I totally agree with that. Well, no, keep going. I thought you were done.
No, I was going to say, yeah, it just really takes the person to understand himself, what he wants, and the ideal relationship and the ideal woman or partner for himself. It really getting detail in that vision and then going to the right places to meet her.
Right. And what examples of that might you find? I mean, I think that typically a guy would, I think like the default is like go to the bar and find the girl at the bar.
Right. Yeah.
Like what are other opportunities for young men to find the women that that'll complement their lives?
Sure. And this might sound crazy, but you can meet her anywhere, even on the street. But like I said, it starts with yourself. I'll just give the example of myself. Because I value health, because I value continuous growth, I would meet them at the gym. I take yoga classes. I rock climb. I go hiking. And I meet tons of beautiful women out there. And for continuous growth, I go to Toastmasters. This is a place where you improve your public speaking and leadership skills. You can go to personal development seminars. There's just so many opportunities. You could go to the bookstore if you like to read. There's just so many places. And meetup.com is a great place. Just finding common interests, showing up there.
Yeah, that's where I met you, through improv.
Right, exactly. You see?
Meetup, which was rad, and it's you're a person I'll keep around for a long time. And that's good for platonic male relationships too, because I'm sure a lot of men fall into like this lone wolf sort of mentality, and they don't have a lot of adult male friends to hang out with.
That is so important, to have a band of brothers, I like to call it. And these are men who genuinely want to see you grow, and they are not afraid to tell you the truth, even though you might not want to hear it. But they don't tell you to make you feel bad or anything. They tell you because they see you are not living up to your potential, and you are making up excuses for things that you are failing at. These are valuable men to have. They are difficult to find, but they are a lifetime to hold on to.
And it seems like it's the same approach to finding a spouse or a long-term partner, in terms of like analyzing what your core values are, and then going to those places that will attract those same kinds of people. Do you find there are instances, though, where there are some opposites in your life might work a little bit? I mean, like you said, like this band of brothers like will challenge you a bit. Are there situations where someone completely opposite from you would be a good idea, or just stay away from that?
No, that's a good point. No, I definitely have people who have different views, but they're still deep down a genuine good person. They're not people that you would not want to introduce to your friends.
Right.
I love having people who have different views, because it challenges me to look at a different perspective, and it propels me to understand why they think that way, so that I could have a holistic picture of what this opinion is about.
Yeah, and part of that with and kind of like part of the personal growth angle too is like some men I'm sure are stuck in their ways, whether it's like the way that they dress, what they eat, where they go, things like that. What are some tips that some men can try to like try something new or get out of their comfort zone in order to accomplish some of these goals in terms of being a better person?
One thing I ask everyone listening is to have an open mind. No matter how fixated you are in your current lifestyle or habits, be open to trying new things, because living with curiosity like a child, you were able to try everything, right? No one telling you what not to do, although your parents tried to, but you still did it anyways. And that's the key to becoming a better person, is to have that curiosity and also humility to understand that you don't know everything, and life is always teaching you something. So it's okay to try out new things and do things that might scare you, or things that you might be uncomfortable with. And that's where growth happens, is when you're challenging yourself, when you're doing things that are scary, that are uncomfortable, but at the end of the day, you become stronger because of it.
And it's good to have someone like you to hold them accountable and have them try new things. I'm sure you encourage them to try something specifically new sometimes as well.
Right. My motto is do at least one thing every day that scares you. And just imagine how much growth you would have in a month, 6 months, or even a year.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing and some pretty clear-cut advice. So I do want to transition to like asking you a little bit about like your growth, but before then, you could take this as a testimonial, because we had a lot of great talks before I moved from San Diego. I'm now on the East Coast, but we had some great talks about my previous relationship and how you really helped me kind of see clearly, especially in the realm of opposites. I think there's a pop culture sense that like marriage or relationships, there needs to be some sense of fighting, or like that some unhealthy aspects of relationships are considered normal. And I think you helped me see that it isn't, and really kickstarted my personal growth. And now I'm with someone who is like a lot more connected to my core values. She's also in digital marketing. She's a painter. She's supportive, respectful. It's like night and day, and it's amazing. And I can attribute some of that to you. So I really appreciate you listening to me in that situation.
Well, welcome. I mean, you're very welcome, and I'm ecstatic to hear that.
Yeah, it's good. And we'll talk about that a little bit more later. But I wanted to kind of jump into, your story a little bit. When did this become a thing for you? When did you want to start working with men to help them? And how did you help yourself to learn these things?
Sure. I think I should go back to when I just started my chemical engineering career. So like I said, with the emphasis of Asian parents, I only had the laser focus of getting good grades in school. And shortly after that, I found a job, and my laser focus transferred to my career. I would go into work really early, work late. I would go in at sometimes 7 a.m., leave till 8 p.m. at times. And that didn't leave much time in life. And I kept that going for about a few years. And one night I just saw myself in the mirror, really disgusted with what I saw. I had fats all around my waist. I was the fattest I've ever been. And growing up as a kid, I was always involved in sports. I was athletic and fit. But that night, I was appalled by what I saw. And I just slammed at the bathroom mirror and said, enough is enough. I need to make a change. This can't keep on going. Then that's when I kickstarted my health transformation journey. I changed my diet. I follow a workout regimen. I started doing running, marathons, and then triathlons with cycling and swimming. But how I started with helping men is I was sitting down outside one day eating lunch by myself, and I was just scanning my life as a whole. I have all these things I want, or I was supposed to have, but I felt something was missing. That deep sense of fulfillment. Then I went through the mental exercise that I told you about. It started with envisioning myself laying on my deathbed and asking myself, am I proud of the life that I lived? And the answer was a resounding no. And then I asked, what do I truly want in life? And the answer was very clear. It was freedom. I wanted the freedom to choose how I want to live my life. But at the time, I didn't know what I want to do. But I went back to my roots. I was extremely passionate about health. And that's where it started. I started helping people with their health. And at first, I was helping with both men and women, because I had female friends who was asking me for advice on how to improve their health. But then at the beginning of 2017, last year, I changed direction to strictly helping men, and on all areas of life, because that's something that I do on a daily basis. And if I could use what I learned myself and help other people along the journey, then that's the perfect combination.
So this was really like a sort of an intuitive journey. You sort of just took the reins and started learning this stuff yourself. Did you have a mentor along the way, people that you spoke to help you?
Yeah, I definitely had mentors and coaches along the way, because I don't believe any of us could do everything on our own. I love reading books, and those mentors, I don't know them personally, but I could read their life's work in a book, which costs less than $10, but also listen to a lot of podcasts. And I invested in personal development work, where I work with coaches one-on-one as well. There's definitely has been a lot of help along my journey as well. And there will continue will be.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a never-ending process. You know, we keep growing until we die, and we should be, at least. I feel like that's a way to live a fulfilling life, I believe. So do you have any examples of some great podcasts that someone can listen to if they're listening to this and they're just like, I don't even know where to get started? Do you have some recommendations for like books or podcasts, or you can even plug your stuff here too if you want?
Thank you. No, absolutely. I think for men, there's a great podcast called Knowledge for Men. So I met the host. He's actually one of my mentors. He provides 2 episodes a week, and it's interviews with top performers, entrepreneurs, people that you don't know probably, but you should know. And they provide tons of value. And a book that has been really influential in my life was The Way of the Superior Man by David Data. And it talks about finding your purpose in life. And that is the highest priority in any man's life, because that's what drives men, the masculine, is that freedom and that direction. And it rises above the relationship that you have with your partner, because let's be honest, in our lives, wherever we go, there we are. But in terms of romantic relationship, even though we don't have someone in our life, or if we lose someone, we could always find someone else. But our purpose, that's always with us. And that's why he makes a strong emphasis on that. It's the most important thing in a man's life.
Yeah, one of the things that I like to say is that, you're the only person in your life that you're going to spend 100% of your life with. So you need to value yourself first and foremost, so that you can better give to other people. I've had some conversations with people pleasers, types that are so concerned about other people's opinion, which include their parents or their spouse. And they seem to give into this romantic notion of sacrificing themselves, their well-being, father sacrificing their joy in life to provide for their kids and things like that. It's important for us to take the reins and realize that we're human beings too throughout our lives, and that we can take care of ourselves and take care of other people.
Absolutely. And one question I pose in my book is, how can you take care of others if you don't take care of yourself first? And it's contrary to popular belief, but we have to be selfish first in order to be selfless.
Yeah, I think that's part of one of my missions here with this podcast is to kind of help people redefine that word selfish. I think it's got a negative connotation. Oh, you're so selfish. It's like, no, you could be self-fulfilled and use a sense of self-growth throughout your life as a means to help other people. So I think we've all got to work on improving the usage of that word selfish and redefine it for everybody.
Right. I prefer the word self-love more.
Yeah, self-love. That's such a good one. So kind of wrapping up here, do you want to give people a sense of where they can get your book and watch your videos? Actually, before we do that, can you kind of give people a sense of like what you talk about in your articles and videos?
Sure. And what I talk about in my article, it varies from week to week. I focus on the 4 pillars: health, wealth, relationships, and personal growth. And if that resonates with you, I would definitely recommend checking it out. And for my book, you could get it from Amazon. You search for my name, Perry Liao, and it should pop right up. But all this is found in my website, and I'm sure you will have it linked on the show notes.
Yeah, you could say it out loud too. That's totally fine.
You could find it on purposedrivenmastery.com, and that's where you could find contact information. If you have any questions for me, everything that I have, it's on the website.
Yeah. Do you want anyone to reach out to you on social media or anything too? You could totally plug that.
Oh yeah, it's found on my website. I only have a Facebook and an Instagram account.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool. Sounds good. Well, I appreciate you being on. There was a lot of really good stuff here for men, Asian men, or really like, yeah, a lot of any man that is dealing with any kind of difficulty with like, too much pressure from their spouse or their parents. I think this is a good episode for. And definitely go check out purposedrivenmastery.com and all of his work. Perry's a good man. He's helped me out, and he will help you out for sure. So thank you, Perry, for being on the show.
Well, thank you, Christian. It's been a thrilling ride. Thank you.
It's always a good time. We'll do this again in the future. But for now, take care, and I'll talk to you guys later.